Good morning, everyone. My name is Devian P. Sorizo, and we will be talking about the Rizal's life, higher education, and life abroad. And I will be discussing to you the topic 1, which is the scholastic triumphs at Ateneo de Manila in 1872 to 1877. And topic 2, which is the medical studies at the University of Santo Tomas in 1877 to 1882. And the topic 3, which is the travel in Spain in 1882 to 1885. Now, let's discuss first the topic 1, which is the scholastic triumphs at Ateneo de Manila, which Rizal entered in 1872 under Jesuit system of education. Ateneo Municipal, a college under the supervision of Spanish Jesuits. Escuela Pia, or the charity school, formerly named of Ateneo, a school for boys in Manila, which was established by the city government in 1817. In June 10, 1872, Rizal, accompanied by Pasiano, went to Manila. Father Margin Ferrando was the college registrar, refused to admit Rizal in Ateneo for 2 reasons. Manuel Ceres Burgos, because of his intercession, nephew of Father Burgos, Rizal was reluctantly admitted at the Ateneo. Jose was the first of his family to adopt the surname Rizal. He registered under this name at Ateneo because of their family name, Mercado, had come under the suspicion of the Spanish authorities. Rizal was the first boarded in a house outside Intramuros on Caraballo Street. This was owned by a spinster named Titay, who owed the Rizal family the amount of 300 pesos. To improve his Spanish, Rizal took private lessons in Santa Isabel College. Rizal's first year in Ateneo in 1872 to 1873. June 1872, his first day of class in Ateneo. Rizal's first heard a mass at the college chapel. Father Jose Beck, Rizal's first professor in the Ateneo. In second year of Rizal in Ateneo in 1873 to 1874, Rizal repented having neglected his studies the previous year. Simply to regain his lost class leadership, Rizal studied harder. He became emperor. At the end of the class year, Rizal received excellent grades in all subjects and a gold medal. In third year in Ateneo in 1874 to 1875, Rizal did not make an excellent showing in his studies as in the previous year. His grades remained excellent in all subjects, but he won only 1 medal in Latin. He failed to win the medal in Spanish. In his 4th year in Ateneo in 1875 to 1876, on June 16, 1875, Rizal became an interno in the Ateneo. Father Francisco de Polas Sanchez, one of his professor this time and a great educator and scholar, he inspired the young Rizal to study harder and to write poetry. On his part, Rizal had the highest affection and respect for Father Sanchez, whom he considered his best professor in the Ateneo. Rizal was topped of all his classmates in all subjects. Won 5 medals at the end of the school term. In his last year, in 1876 to 1877, his studies continued to fare well. As a matter of fact, he excelled in all subjects. Rizal was the most brilliant Athenian of his time, who was truly the pride of the Jesuits. Rizal finished his last year at the Ateneo in a blaze of glory. He obtained the highest grades in all subjects: philosophy, physics, biology, chemistry, language, mineralogy, and etc. Rizal graduated with highest honor. He graduated on March 28, 1877 in the age of 16 years old. In terms of his extracurricular activities in Ateneo, he was an active in extracurricular activities, an emperor inside the classroom, and he was a leader outside. He was an active member, later secretary, of religious society, the Marian Congregation. Rizal was also a member of the Academy of Spanish Literature and the Academy of Natural Sciences. Now, let's move on to the topic 2, which is Rizal's medical studies at the University of Santo Tomas in 1877 to 1882. After finishing the first year of a course in philosophy and letters in 1877 to 1878, Rizal transferred to the medical course, which is, according to his mother, which is Doña Teodora, don't send him to Manila again. He knows enough. If he gets to know more, the Spaniards will cut off his head. Vigorously opposed the idea that Rizal pursue higher learning in the university. April 1877, Rizal, who was then nearly 16 years old, matriculated in the University of Santo Tomas, taking the course on philosophy and letters. During his first term in 1877 to 1878 in UST, he studied cosmology, metaphysics, theodicy, and history of philosophy. Now, let's move on to the another topic, which is the Rizal's life abroad, specifically the topic 3, which is the secret mission in Spain in 1882 to 1885. To observe keenly the life and culture, languages and customs, industries and commerce, and governments and laws of the European nations, in order to prepare himself in the mighty task of liberating oppressed people from Spanish tyranny. Rizal's departure in Spain was kept secret to avoid detection by the Spain authorities and the friars. Even his own parents were unaware of his secret mission in Spain, as he knew they would not allow him to go. Before Rizal's secret departure, he wrote a farewell letter to his beloved parents and another one for his sweetheart, Leonor Rivera. It was both delivered shortly after he sailed away. In May 3, 1882, Rizal boarded the Spanish steamer Salvadora bound for Singapore. On May 8, 1882, during his way to Singapore, Rizal saw a beautiful island called Talim Island with the Susong Dalaga. On May 9, 1882, Rizal landed in Singapore and registered at the Hotel de la Paz and spent 2 nights in a sightseeing tour of the city, which was a colony of England. During his stay, Rizal visited the famous botanical garden, the beautiful Buddhist temple, the busy shopping district, and the statue of Sir Thomas Standford Raffles, or the founder of Singapore. In Rizal's life in Barcelona and Madrid, during his summer vacation in Spain, he was able to travel and meet some of the Filipinos who lived in the city. Rizal wrote an essay about how much he loves and misses his homeland. El Amor Patrio, or Love of Country, it was the title of his first nationalistic essay, which he wrote in Barcelona. This was also the first Manila bilingual newspaper, Spanish and Tagalog. On August 20, 1882, his essay was published in Daryong Tagalog and was translated into Tagalog by Marcelo H. Del Pilar. On November 3, 1882, Rizal was enrolled in University Central de Madrid under the course of Medicine and Philosophy and Letters. While waiting for classes to begin in Madrid, he enrolled in the Academy of Fine Arts of San Fernando for painting and traveled to various historical sites and museums. Because of his involvement in various lessons and difficulty. During his stay in Madrid, Rizal joined the Círculo Hispano-Filipino. It is a group of Filipino and Spaniards who wants the government to reform. He wrote his Nipeden Versos, a poem about the sadness of an artist's son who lived in a place far from his origin. Aside from his studies and other art lessons, he had the opportunity to meet Consuelo Ortiga y Perez, the daughter of Don Pablo, who is the mayor of Manila. Rizal fell in love with Consuelo, but because Eduardo de Let was courting Consuelo, he did not pursue his feelings for Consuelo, and instead he wrote a poem which showed his admiration for this lady.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is the continuation of the reporter about the life of Rizal in abroad. So let's talk about the Rizal in Paris during 1883. On July 17, 1883, Rizal traveled to Paris and visited different spots, the museum, the opera house, Cathedral of Notre Dame, Bois de Bologna, Medellin Church, the Column for Dome, the Invalides, and the libraries. He had also the opportunities to visit some restaurants in Paris. Now, Rizal was mistaken by the Parisians as Japanese. That's why prices of his food, lodging, and entrance fees were higher than the other nationalities. In a letter to his family, he stated that Paris is Europe's most expensive capital. He could not afford the high cost of living in Paris, so he decided to go back in Madrid. Rizal as a Mason. Rizal was impressed by how openly and freely the Spanish Masons criticized government policies and lambasted the friars, something that could not be done in the Philippines. March 1883, he became a member of the Masonic Lodge known as the Acacia. His motivation for becoming a Mason is to enlist the aid of Freemasonry in its fight against the friars in the Philippines. November 15, 1890, Rizal became a Mason leader after he transferred to Lodge Solidaridad. February 15, 1892, Le Grand Orient de France in Paris conferred the Master Mason diploma on Rizal. In Gay Paris, 1885 to 1886, after Rizal completing his studies at the Central University of Madrid, at the age of 24 and already a physician, he also traveled to Paris to further the knowledge in ophthalmology. November 1885, Rizal was living in Paris where he sojourned performance. He worked as Dr. Louis Weker's assistant. Rizal was a well-known French ophthalmologist during November 1885 to February 1886. January 1, 1886, he wrote a letter to his parents. The letter revealed that Rizal was rapidly improving his knowledge of ophthalmology. February 1, 1886, as acquiring enough experience as ophthalmologist in Dr. Weker's clinic, Rizal reluctantly left Paris. Now let's move to the Rizal's grand tour of Europe with Dr. Viola during 1887. On May 11, 1887, Rizal and Viola left Berlin by train. Their next destination was Dresden, one of the best cities in Germany. Dresden, they visited Dr. Adolf B. Mayer. Rizal was deeply impressed by the painting of Prometheus Bound. They met Dr. Fyodor Jahor. They planned to visit Rizal'S to see Blumentritt. First meeting with Blumentritt at the train station, Rizal arrived from Germany. On May 13, 1887 at 1:30 p.m., Rizal and Viola on board arrived at the railroad station of Rizal'S. Bohemia, Professor Blumentritt carried a sketch of Rizal to identify his Filipino friends. He warmly received Rizal and Viola. Rizal and Blumentritt met in person and greeted on each fluent German. Blumentritt loved Rizal as his son because of his talents. Blumentritt helped two tourists get a room in Hotel Krebs. They stayed in Rizal'S from May 17, 1887. Now, let's talk about the Prague and the Vienna. In Prague, they met Dr. Wellcome, a professor of University of Prague. Rizal and Viola visited the tomb of Copernicus, the famous astronomers. Sorry for the interruption. The museums of natural history, bacteriological laboratories, famous cave were in San Juan Nepomuceno. The Catholic saint was imprisoned, and many more. Vienna, May 20, they went to Vienna, the Queen of Danube. They met Norman Falls, one of the greatest novelists in Europe. Rizal and Viola stayed in Hotel Metropole. The Nubian voyage to Linz and the Geneva. The Nubian voyage to Linz, May 25, Rizal and Viola left Vienna on a river boat to see the beautiful sights of the Nubia River. Next, they went to Stuttgart, Baden, and the rainfall. They saw the waterfall, the most beautiful waterfall in Europe. Now in Geneva, Rizal and Viola left on a little boat, went to foggy Lemon Lake to Geneva, the beautiful city. In June 19, 1887, Rizal treated Viola on his 26th birthday. Now let's talk about the trip to Hong Kong. February 3, 1888, after 6 months on his Zafir board, Rizal left Calamba. Rizal did not leave his ship during the brief stopover in Amoy for 3 reasons. First, he was not feeling well. Second is it was raining hard. And the third is he heard that the city is dirty. That's during February 7, 1888. Now, in February 8, 1888, Rizal arrived in Hong Kong, which was then a British colony. In Hong Kong, Rizal stayed at Victoria Hotel. Some of the Filipino residents welcomed Rizal, including Jose Maria Basa, Balbino Mauricio, and Manuel Iriarte. Jose Baranda was following Rizal's movement in Hong Kong at the time. He is thought to have been ordered to spy According to Rizal, Hong Kong was small but clean. So many Portuguese, Hindus, English, Jews, and Chinese. Rizal expressed his bitterness in a letter written in blue metric. They forced Rizal to leave the country while he was still sick. Lieutenant Taviel de Andrade helped him, as well as Governor Geneva Terrero. Dominicans witnessed Rizal holding secret meeting with men and women on top of a hill. Rizal was given money by countrymen in order for him to leave. During February 1888, Rizal witnessed a Catholic procession in which devotees were dressed in blue and purple dresses and carried unlighted candles. During a 2-week stay in Hong Kong, Rizal studies Chinese life, language, drama, and customs. Rizal experiences noisy celebrations of Chinese New Year. Rizal fired many firecrackers in the window of his hotel. Boisterous Chinese theater with noisy audience and noisier music. Rizal experienced the Marathon Laureate party where guests were served numerous dishes such as dried fruits, geese, shrimp, century eggs, and many more. It was also called the longest meal in the world. Rizal was well aware that the Dominican order was the wealthiest religion in Hong Kong. It had millions of dollars deposited in banks, which earned a fantastic interest rate on the Hong Kong cemeteries belonging to Protestants, Catholics, and Muslims. Departure from Hong Kong February 22, 1888, Rizal boarded Oceanic, an American steamer, and left Hong Kong. So the next reporter, or the next my colleague will talk about the next topic of life Rizal in abroad. That's all. Thank you.
Let's proceed to Rizal's trip to Japan and short romance with Osei-san. One of the happiest interludes in the life of Rizal was his sojourn in the land of the cherry blossoms for 1 month and a half in February 28 to April 13 in 1888. He was enchanted by the natural beauty of Japan, the charming manners of the Japanese people, and the picturesque shrines. Rizal arrives in Yokohama in February 28, 1888, Tuesday morning. Rizal arrived in Yokohama. He registered at the Grand Hotel March 2 to 7. Rizal proceeded to Tokyo and took a room at Tokyo Hotel. Rizal in Tokyo. During his first day in Tokyo, Rizal was embarrassed because he did not know the Japanese language. He looked like Japanese but he could not talk Japanese. Rizal studied Japanese language and he was able to speak it within a few days. Rizal was visited at his hotel by Juan Perez Caballero, secretary of the Spanish legation. The latter invited him to live at the Spanish legation. Macau is a Portuguese colony near Hong Kong. Spanish diplomatic authorities were instructed from Manila to monitor his movements in Japan. He accepted the invitation for 2 reasons. The first one is he could economize his living expenses by staying at the location, and the second is he had nothing to hide from the prying eyes of the Spanish authorities. Rizal's impression of Japan. Rizal was favorably impressed by Japan. He was a keen observer, taking copious notes on the life, customs, and culture of the people. He was no silly, light-headed tourist who merely enjoys attractive sights that appealed only to the senses. Things which favorably impressed Rizal in Japan were First is the beauty of the country, its flowers, mountains, streams, and scenic panoramas. The second one is the cleanliness, politeness, and industry of the Japanese people. The third one is the picturesque dress and simple charm of the Japanese women. The fourth one is there were very few thieves in Japan, so the houses remained open day and night. And in the hotel room, one could safely leave money on the table. The fifth, or the last one, is the beggars were rarely seen in the city streets, unlike in Manila and other cities. Romance with Osei-san. Osei-san, or Seiko Usui, a samurai's daughter, 23 years old, and a pretty Japanese girl whom Rizal was attracted by her regal loveliness and charm. Rizal and Osei-san, as Rizal called her, met almost daily. Together, they visited the interesting spots of the city: the Imperial Art Gallery, the Imperial Library, the universities, the Shokubutsu and or Botanical Garden, the city parks or particularly Hibiya Park, and the picturesque shrines. Rizal saw in lovely Osei-san the qualities of his ideal womanhood, the beauty, charm, modesty, and intelligence. No wonder he fell deeply in love with her. Osei-san helped Rizal in many ways. More than sweetheart, she was his guide, interpreter, and tutor. She improved his knowledge of Nippongo or Japanese language and Japanese history. She guided him in observing the shrines and villages around Tokyo. Rizal's great love for Osei-san is attested by the hero's diary. With his tenderly tragic entry in his own diary, Rizal bade farewell to lovely Osei-san. Rizal's trip to the United States of America in 1888. His arrival in the country was ruined by racial prejudice. He documented what he observed during his trip from Francisco to New York. In Saturday morning, April 28, 1888, Rizal docked in San Francisco. Authorities did not let the passengers land for 1 week because of a rumored cholera outbreak. May 4, 1888, when Rizal registered at the first-class hotel in the city called Palace Hotel. He stayed there for 3 days. On May 7 to May 13, 1888, Rizal stayed at Nevada, Chicago. On May 13 to May 16, 1888, Rizal went to New York and stayed to the big town. Rizal in London in 1888 to 1889. Rizal's reason for staying: to improve his knowledge on the English language, to study and annotate Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. London was a safe place for him to carry on his fight against Spanish tyranny. While in London, he wrote articles for La Solidaridad to the young women of Malolos and completed annotating Morga's book. Rizal engaged in Filipiniana studies, completed annotating Morga's book, wrote many articles for La Solidaridad in defense of his people against Spanish critic, penned a famous letter to the young women of Malolos, carried voluminous correspondence with Blumentritt and relatives, and romance with Gertrude Beckett. Trip across the Atlantic. Rizal was on board the city of Rome. While on board, Rizal entertained the American and European passengers with his marvelous skill of the yo-yo as a defensive weapon. Rizal arrived at Liverpool, England on May 24, 1888. He spent his night at Adelphi Hotel. Liverpool, he wrote to his family, is a big and beautiful city, and its celebrated port is worthy of its great fame. The entrance is magnificent, and the costume house is quite good. Rizal's life in London. On May 25, 1888, Rizal went to London. He stayed as a guest at home of Dr. Antonio Maria Regidor, an exile of 1872 and practicing lawyer in London. By the end of May, he was a boarder of the Becket family. Mr. Becket, an organist at St. Paul Church. Mrs. Becket, his wife. His 3 sons and 4 daughters. The eldest of the sister was Gertrude or Getty or Totty. Rizal came to know Dr. Reinhold Rost, the librarian of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Authority on Malayan Languages and Customs. He called Rizal a pearl of a man, or una perla de hombre. Rizal spent of his time the British Museum. News from home, good and bad. The bad news were injustices committed by Spanish authorities on the Filipino people and the Rizal family, among which were as follows. Persecution of Filipino patriots who signed the Anti-Friar Petition of 1888. Persecution of Calamba tenants, including Rizal's family and relatives. Fierce attack on Rizal by Senator Salamanca and Vida. Rizal's brother-in-law Manuel T. Hidalgo was exiled to Bohol without due process of law. A friend of Rizal, Loreno Viado, was jailed in Bilibid prison because copies of Noli Me Tangere were found in his house. One good news cheered Rizal, and that was Rev. Revente Garcia's defense of the Noli against the attack of the friars. Annotating Morga's book. The greatest achievement of Rizal was annotating of Morga's book, Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, which was published in Mexico, 1609. Rizal laboriously read the old histories of the Philippines written by Father Chirino, Father Colin, Father Argensola, Father Plasencia, and etc. Rizal's short visit to Paris and Spain. In early September 1888, he visited Paris for a week. He was entertained in this gay French metropolis by Juan Luna and his wife, Paz Prado de Tavera. On December 11, 1888, he went to Spain visiting Madrid and Barcelona. He met Marcelo H. del Pilar and Mariano Ponce. Rizal returned to London on December 24 and spent Christmas and New Year with the Becket family. He sent Christmas gifts to his friends. To Blumentritt, bust of Emperor of Augustus. To Dr. Carlos Zepelac, a bust of Julius Caesar. To Rizal's landlady, Mrs. Becket, a book entitled The Life and the Adventures of Valentin Vaux, the Ventriloquist. Rizal's romance with Gertrude Becket. Rizal had a romantic interlude with the oldest of the 4 Becket sisters. Gertrude Getty, as she was affectionately called, was a buxom English girl with brown hair, blue eyes, and rosy cheeks. Rizal eventually called the finished 4 sculptural work. The first one is Prometheus Bound. The second one is the Triumph of Death over Life. The third one is the Triumph of Science over Death. And the last one is a composite carving of the Becket sisters, or the last named carving was a farewell gift to the Becket sisters. Adios to London. Suddenly, on March 19, 1889, Rizal bade goodbye to the King Becket family, or particularly to Gertrude, and he left in London for Paris. He was sad as he crossed the English Channel, for he cherished so many beautiful memories of London.
Rizal in Belgian, Brussels, 1890. In early 1890, Jose Rizal left Paris to Brussels, Belgium, seeking a quieter environment and to escape the political tension surrounding the Filipino expatriate community in France. He found lodging with the Jacobi sisters, the daughters of his landlord, and despite a sense of increasing loneliness and homesickness, Rizal remained intellectually and creatively productive. During his time in Brussels, Rizal worked on the final chapter of El Filibusterismo, the sequel to Noli Me Tangere, which exposed the abuses and corruption of Spanish authorities and clergy in the Philippines. He also continued to write articles for La Solidaridad, the newspaper of the propaganda movement, advocating for political and social reforms in the Philippines under Spanish rule. However, Rizal's life in Brazil was far from easy. He faced chronic financial difficulties, often borrowing money from his friends such as Valentin Ventura and Jose Maria Basa. Despite the cold climate, economic hardship, and his growing sense of isolation, Rizal remained steadfast in his goal: the enlightenment of the Filipino people and the pursuit of justice and reform in his homeland. Misfortunes in Madrid 1890 to 1891. Later in 1890, Rizal returned to Madrid to help resolve internal conflict within the Filipino reform movement. Tension had risen between him and Marcelo del Pilar, who had taken a strong leadership role in La Solidaridad. Their disagreement over the direction and leadership of the publication led to functionalism among Filipinos in Spain, weakening the unity of the propaganda movement. While trying to mediate and reconcile the divided group, Rizal experienced a devastating personal blow. He learned that his longtime love, Leonor Rivera, had married Henry Keeping, a British engineer working on a railway projects in the Philippines. The news deeply wounded Rizal, as he had hoped one day reunite and marry her. This emotional turmoil, combined with mounting financial problems and internal political stress, severely affected Rizal's health, causing him physical exhaustion and depression. Despite the growing challenges, Rizal remained committed to his ideals. He sought new strategies for achieving reform and justice for his fellow countrymen, but also began to feel the limitations of peaceful advocacy in the face of Spanish indifference and internal disunity. Marriage, vacation, and romance with Nelly Boasted in 1891. In early 1891, Rizal took a much-needed break and accepted an invitation to stay with the Boasted family at their beautiful estate in Biarritz, a coastal town in southwestern France. The Boasted were a wealthy and cultured family, and the peaceful atmosphere of their home provided Rizal with a welcome respite from the stress and hardship of the previous months. During his stay, Rizal became romantically involved with Nelly Boasted, the daughter of his host. Nelly was intelligent, charming, and of mixed Filipino and French descent. Rizal admired her deeply and eventually proposed marriage. However, Nelly, a devout Catholic, could not accept his agnostic views and ultimately rejected his proposal due to their religious differences. Although the relationship did not result in marriage, Rizal appreciated the tranquility and beauty of Biarritz, which gave him the mental clarity and focus to complete El Filibusterismo. After his stay, he returned to Brussels to finalize and prepare the manuscript for publication. The novel was eventually published with the financial help of his friends, marking another major, literally a political contribution to the reform movement.
El Filibusterismo, published in Ghent, 1891. October 1887. While practicing medicine in Calamba, Rizal began writing the manuscript for El Filibusterismo. 5, 1891, Rizal left Brussels for Ghent, a famous university in Belgium. The cost of printing in Ghent was cheaper than in Brussels. Number 2, to escape from the enticing attraction of petite cuisine. In Ghent, Rizal lived in a cheap boarding house and met two compatriots. Number 1, Jose Alejandro from Pampanga and Edilberto Evangelista from Manila during the printing of El Filibusterismo, a printing shop that offered Rizal the lowest price for the publication of his novel and was willing to print in it installments. Rizal pawned his jewels in order to pay the down payment and the early partial payment. August 6, 1891. The printing of his book had to be suspended because Rizal could no longer give the necessary funds to the printer. Valentin Ventura, the savior of the Philippe. When Ventura learned of Rizal's predicament and immediately sent him the necessary funds. With his financial aid, the printing of El Filibusterismo was resumed. September 18, 1891. El Filibusterismo came off the press. Rizal immediately sent off this date 2 printed copies to Hong Kong, one for Basa and the other for Sixto Lopez. Rizal gratefully donated the original manuscript and an autographed printed copy to Valentin Ventura. Newspaper which give tribute to all Philippe are La Publicidad, a Barcelona newspaper where in it published a tribute eulogizing the novel's original style, which is comparable only to the sublime Alexander Dumas and may well be offered as a model and a precious jewel in the now decadent literature of Spain. El Nuevo Regimen, a liberal Madrid newspaper that serialized the novel in its issues of October 1891. September 22, 1891, Rizal wrote to Blumentritt that he planned to write the third novel, Gomburza. Rizal dedicated the new book to the 3 priests Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, who were executed because of their supposed participation in the first revolutionary campaign of modern Philippine nationalism, the Mutiny of Cavite. Synopsis of El Filibusterismo. El Filibusterismo is a sequel to the Noli. It has little humor, less idealism, and less romance than Noli Me Tangere. It is more revolutionary, more tragic than the first novel. Rizal had an inspiration to write his own novel with the same topic to expose Spanish colonial abuse in print. The theme and plot of El Filibusterismo was changed to convey the message that has present system of government in the Philippines through corrupt officials dominated by the friars can lead to the downfall of Spain. The original manuscript of El Filibusterismo, in Rizal's own handwriting, is now preserved in the Filipiniana Division of the Bureau of Public Libraries, Manila. Had been acquired from Ventura for 10,000. It consists of 279 pages of long sheets of paper. 2 feet features in the manuscript do not appear in the printed book, namely, foreword and warning. October 18, 1891, Rizal boarded the steamer Melbourne in Marcellus, bound for Hong Kong. Ophthalmic surgeon in Hong Kong, 1891 to 1892. Rizal left Europe for Hong Kong, where he lived from November 1891 to June 1892. His reason for leaving Europe were: life was unbearable in Europe because of his political differences with MH del Pilar and other Filipinos in Spain, to be near his idolized Philippines and family. Farewell to Europe. Rizal left Europe for Hong Kong, where he lived from November 1891 to June 1892. His reasons for leaving Europe were: life was unbearable in Europe because of his political differences with MH del Pilar and other Filipinos in Spain, to be near his idolized Philippines and family. October 3, 1891. 2 weeks after the publication of Philly, Rizal left Ghent for Paris, where he stayed a few days to say goodbye to the Lunas, the Pardo de Taveras, the Venturas, and other friends. Rizal proceeded by train to Marcellus. October 18, 1891, Rizal boarded the steamer Melbourne, bound for Hong Kong. Father Fuchs, a Tyrolese, Rizal enjoyed playing chess. Rizal described him the Blumentritt as he is a fine fellow, a Father Damaso without pride and malice. November 20, 1891, Rizal arrived in Hong Kong. Rizal established his residence at number 5D Aguilar Street, number 2 Redna Sokla Terrace, where he also opened his medical clinic. December 1, 1891, Rizal wrote his parents asking their permission to return home. On the same date, his brother-in-law Manuel T. Hidalgo sent him a letter relating the sad news of the deportation of 25 persons from Calamba, including Father Neneng, Sisa, Lucia, Pasiano, and the rest of us. The Christmas of 1891 in Hong Kong was one of the happiest Yuletide celebration in Rizal's life, for he had a happy family reunion. January 31, 1892, Rizal wrote to Blumentritt recounting pleasant life in Hong Kong. To earn a living for himself and for his family, Rizal practiced medicine. Dr. Lorenzo P. Marquez, a Portuguese physician who became Rizal's friend and admirer, who helped him to build up a wild clientele. In recognition of Rizal's skills as an ophthalmic surgeon, he turned over to him many of his eye cases. Rizal successfully operated on his mother's left eye so that she was able to read and write again. Last trip abroad, 1896. While Rizal was patiently waiting on the cruiser Castilla for the next steamer to take him to Spain, portentous events occurred, presaging the downfall of Spanish power in Asia. August 19, 1896, the Katipunan plot to overthrow Spanish rule by means of revolution was discovered by Fray Mariano Gil Augustinian, cura of Tondo. August 30, 1896, departure of Rizal for Spain, the day when the state of war was proclaimed in the 8th provinces. Rizal received from Governor General Blanco, who 2 letters of the introduction for: Number 1, the Minister of War.
Number 2, the Minister of Colonies with a covering letter which absolved him from all blame for raging revolution. Rizal in Singapore, September 7. The Isla de Panay arrived at Singapore. Don Pedro and Don Manuel Camus advised Rizal to stay and take advantage of the protection of the British law. Rizal had given his word of honor to Governor General Blanco. Victim of Spanish duplicity. By refusing to break his word of honor in Singapore, Rizal sealed his own doom. For without his knowledge, Governor Blanco was secretly conspiring with the ministers of war and the colonies ultramar for his destruction. Great hero and genius that he was, Rizal proved to be as gullible as Sultan Zaide, another victim of Spanish intrigue. Rizal arrested before reaching Barcelona, September 8, 1 p.m. The Isla de Panay with Rizal on board left Singapore unaware of the Spanish duplicity, particularly of Governor General Blanco's infernal deceit. September 25, he saw the steamer Isla de Luzon leaving the Suez Canal crammed with Spanish troops. He realized that he was fooled by the Spanish officials that made him to write a letter to his best friend. He was officially notified by Captain Alemany that he should stay in his cabin until further orders from Manila. Arrival in Barcelona as a prisoner, September 30, 6:25 p.m. The steamer anchored at Malta. Rizal confined to his cabin and was able to visit the famous island fortress of the Christian Crusaders. October 3 at 10 o'clock in the morning, the Isla de Panay arrived in Barcelona with Rizal a prisoner on board. The trip from Manila to Barcelona lasted exactly 30 days. His jailer was no longer the ship captain but military commander of Barcelona, who happened to be General Eulogio Despujol, the same one who ordered his banishment to the Pitan in July 1892. He was taken out of prison by the guards and brought to the headquarters of General Despujol. The ship left Barcelona with Rizal on